Okay, so welcome back, and as you can see I'm sat in a garden in my kayak, which is quite eccentric, I know, but what I want to do in this video is basically help you understand whether buying an inflatable kayak is a great way to get on the water, or whether you're pondering buying a more traditional plastic kind of resin kayak. And I've just been out on this kayak last night, and what I thought about doing is just putting a video together just to try and answer some of those questions, or provoke some of those questions before you go out and buy one. Now, I think these things are one of the must-have kind of things this summer. The prices have come down quite dramatically. This K1, for instance, is on Cabela's at the moment, Cabela's Canada, for $149. Where other ones probably a couple of years ago you'd be looking at $600, $700, $800. But I know when I bought this one I was always a little bit kind of wondering whether an inflatable kayak is the way to go. We've all been children and grown up with inflatable dinghies and the things that hang around outside the stores at seasides, and they pop very quickly. So actually being out on the ocean on a kayak, or on a lake on the kayak, I did kind of wonder. So in terms of buying this, let's just go through a few of the ups and downs of buying a inflatable kayak. But before we do that, what I'm going to ask you to do is please subscribe to this channel. I love your feedback in the comments section below. We've got some really good discussions going on all the videos and on Facebook and that kind of stuff. So if you like these videos, of course, please press the like button and please subscribe. So without further ado, onto the video. So I've got my little book of notes here, so please have to excuse me, but I just want to go through absolutely everything that you kind of need to think about before you buy an inflatable kayak. So the first one is the glaringly obvious plus of having an inflatable kayak is it is the space. You can literally put this in its bag and store it anywhere. So if you're in a house where there's no garden, or you just got a cupboard to store it, bottom of a closet, something like that, then these things are absolutely perfect. When you get a plastic resin kayak, and I've had these in the past, and I've always found them one of those things that they're great when you're on it and they're great when you're kayaking. The moment it's out the water, the moment it's in your garden, it's in your garage. What the heck's that? The moment it's in the water, or it's in your garage, that kind of stuff, it's in the way. You're tripping over it, it looks unsightly. Unless you've got one of these homes that's got the quintessential boat shed on the lake, and you put your kayaks in, it actually looks like a photograph. They look strangely out of place. Kayaks down the side of houses, by the time you've got a winter on them, they're all green in algae, they look dirty. You've got to hose the things off, there's things living in them. Put them in the garage, you're tripping over it. I've seen people that have the pulley systems in the garage where you pull up the kayak and you've got it kind of in the roof part. That's great, but again, it comes with a cost. And you've got these things swinging over the top of your head. So, as I say, these things come in a very small bag. They're obviously inflatable. You inflate it in situ. So if you're on the beach, take the bag down, blow it up on the beach. Okay, number two, transportation. This comes in its own little bag. If you've got a small car, no problem. Goes on the back seat, goes in the trunk, goes anywhere you want to put it. You have a plastic resin kayak, you've got to start thinking about how you're going to transport it about. And again, it's about roof rack, roof bars, roof rack, roof adapters. You see these cars with great big kind of scoops on the top of them, where the kayak goes in almost sideways, like boat racks. All this comes again with a cost. And yes, once you've got it, you've got it. I always think a car, when it's got kayaks on the top of it, looks really cool. A car driving around with these boat mounts on it without the boat on it looks a little bit awkward. So again, this thing in the bag, in the car, take it down to the beach, blow it up in situ and go and have a great paddle. Number 3 is weight. You see people down at the beach with inflatable resin kayaks, and the car's parked in the car park quite a ways away, and the way that they get them across the beach and up the path is usually by one of these little boat dollies. It's like a hawk with 2 wheels at the side of it, and take those up and drag the kayak up onto the beach. Great if you've got 2 people, but my kayaking is I'm usually on my own, so I know in the past when I've had a resin kayak, they're quite awkward to transport for any period. You know, your shoulder starts aching, that kind of stuff. Again, these things in a bag, just pick them up, off you go. Even if it's inflated in the back of the car, I mean, my Under Element, this thing just lays in the back of it, in the back of the car. I can get this onto my shoulder, I can walk down to the beach, and it is as light as a feather.
Now that is so much fun. This thing is great. It's so light. You just put it on your shoulder.
Okay, next thing is the way that this is set out and the way it sits on the water is that if you should topple out of it, I would imagine, I haven't tried it yet, but I imagine it's quite easy to get back into. You don't need a great deal of courses and that kind of stuff to work out how you use your kayak. If you use the ocean kayaks, the great big long things, then there's a whole heap of courses that it's advisable that you go through to understand safety, how the kayak works, and if you should come out of the kayak, how to get back into it. This one here, this K1, is more of it's technically a sit-in, but there's a large part of me that's kind of sat on here. So I would imagine that if I fell out of this kayak, that I could get back into it quite easily. And again, because it's an inflatable kayak, if it fills up with water in here, it doesn't really matter because the air will keep it buoyant. Yeah. If you've got a plastic resin kayak and you flip it, you get back into it, the thing's full of water, you've got to get a bilge pump and manually get the water out, which is a bit problem if it's choppy. So, but again, that's all about training courses, and you're taught on these courses on how to do that. But it is a consideration for sure. In terms of downsides on this one is that, for a start, the weight is fantastic. It's light, it's easy to transport about. But that will be against you if the wind is against you, or it's a little bit choppy. Because basically it's just your body weight plus this that weighs next to nothing. I don't know what it weighs. I'll find out, put it on the video. So it's very easy to paddle because you're just paddling your body weight. But equally, when the wind picks up, it's liable to blow the boat. So you're gonna have to paddle harder to keep on a straight line, that kind of stuff. The plastic resin boats are a lot more stable and able to take passage when the wind gets up a bit, because you've got your body weight, you've also got the weight of the boat and down into the waterline. So it's more likely, and they're more streamlined. The resin boats are way more streamlined. This is quite wide. I know when I was paddling it last night, it was hitting the, call them the gunnels, but I was hitting the sides of the boat. So yeah, resin boats are a lot narrower, more sleek, and they will keep a straight line in the wind. The other downside is this kayak is wet. By that, when you're paddling it, there's bits of water dripping on you, fills up with water quickly, that kind of stuff, because there's no way of fitting a spray deck here. And on a plastic resin kayak, the spray deck comes up, ties under here, and it stops all the water from going into the kayak. Because with the resin kayak, the less amount of water that you can get into the boat, the better it's going to handle. I remember as a kid using the kayaks at school. By the time you get out, you've got about 2 feet of water in the kayak, and then you've got to do that ridiculous thing of flipping it and lifting it up on one end and lifting it up on the other end to get the water out. This does fill, you do get wet on it. It doesn't fill with water, but you do get wet on it. There's no way of putting a spray deck on it. So pluses and minuses. The other thing with the weight on this one, I've just talked about lifting the kayak up to get the water out. This, because it's light, you can get the water out of it very quickly, and because it's vinyl, what's left of the water will evaporate very quickly, so you don't have a lot of water in it at all by the end of the paddle. So as I say, I went out on this last night. It was just absolutely fantastic. Okay, so the last thing that influences whether you buy an inflatable kayak or not is these things are not like the gimmicky things that hang outside a gift shop at the seaside. These things are purpose built. There's a lot of design gone into them, and the technology, especially in vinyl and gluing seams together, has come on leaps and bounds over the last 5 years. So this will give you, it should give you, a number of years enjoyment. We talked about the stability in the wind, that's one thing, but don't think for 1 minute that these things are flimsy. They are certainly not flimsy. You're blowing them up to a reasonable PSI where these things are rock solid. The floor's rock solid, you can stand on it. It's not flimsy at all. So I think they're absolutely bang on, I really do. But I think when you look at inflatable kayaks versus plastic resin kayaks, there's a lot going for these, especially if your storage space is limited. You have a small car and you don't want to put roof racks on it, that kind of stuff. You don't want the expense of having to do courses, although it's always wise to do courses. There's a lot less to concern yourself with these. The kayaks usually come complete. You get the paddle, you get the pump. The only thing that you have to go out and buy is your life preserver, your life jacket. They're quite cheap enough, so to actually get you set up, get you out on the water, there's very little financial outlay. You just literally go to the store, buy it, buy your life preserver, go down to the beach, blow it up, and off you go. In terms of getting this out of the box, in terms of inflating it, in terms of ready to go, this took less than 5 minutes. So I think that's pretty good myself. In terms of inflatable kayaks, there are all sorts of designs and shapes out there. I mean, Amazon's got pages dedicated to them. You go down to Canadian Tire, there's loads in there. I picked this one up from Cabela's Canada, super cheap, and I think it's great. And it depends what you want to spend, of course. There's different designs. There's sit-ons, there's sit-ins. There's 2 people kayaks, that kind of stuff. So you've literally got a whole array of kayaks to, you know, pick which one's right for you. Spend a bit of time researching these. So that's it from me. Hope you go out and buy one. Hope you enjoy using it. Please, 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 in the comments below, let me know your adventures, or on my Facebook page on Trambling Man, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.